Welcome to an all-new episode of Her Playbook. The Her Playbook podcast is presented by Kendra Scott. Game day just got personal. Find your winning look at Kendra Scott, where team spirit meets personal style. Shop jewelry, accessories, and more at your New York area Kendra Scott store or online at kendrascott.com. I'm Madelyn Burke, and I am thrilled to be joined this week by our guest. She's an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and founder of Kendra Scott, Miss Kendra Scott herself.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming, for sharing your time. This gorgeous jewelry of yours we've got on the table. Although I have to start by saying I noticed a piece of jewelry you're wearing that isn't Kendra Scott. Congratulations on the engagement.
Oh, thank you so much. He did great. It's a really exciting time for us for sure. So thank you.
Congratulations to you and Zach. Now, we got to talk about your business. As a founder, a female founder who has taken a business from $500 to $1 billion business, that is an incredible story.
Thank you.
One of the things that I love about your story is how it started almost not as the goal, right? You had the hat box going and you were selling jewelry on the side, but when you closed that, the jewelry kind of found its way to the forefront. How often in life do we see this too, where we think we're going one direction and then another one becomes the path?
I mean, I think that happens so much in life. Sometimes we get in our heads like it has to be a certain way. Yeah. I was running this hat company and I thought I'm going to open 100 hat stores across the country. Everyone's going to wear hats again like it's 1940. And I really just had my mindset on that had to be the thing. But what was working was the jewelry I was making and putting on the counter each day that was selling out. And when I closed that business after, people didn't wear hats like it was 1940, unfortunately that failure turned into what would become my greatest success. Customers kept calling me, not for hats, but for the jewelry. And so I got a job after I closed the hat box, and my little side hustle was making jewelry, and literally started this business on a card table in my extra bedroom and realized, hey, maybe there's something here. And having that courage to try to start a second business, to try again and use all the knowledge that I learned from those years at the hat box, running that little store day in and day out, gave me so much, that I needed to know to do the next thing I was going to do, the thing that actually ended up working.
Yeah. And it's so funny how sometimes the thing that comes from your own passion, the thing that you'll do just for the love of it, becomes something that, turns into $1 billion business here, and how that path kind of shows itself.
Well, we're here on the Her Playbook podcast, and it's like, talk about playbooks, right? Yeah. When you're in the middle of a game, sometimes you've got to change direction. Right, yeah. And I think with any, same thing with a business, right? I mean, you look at the best laid plans, sometimes you've got to pull them up and go, 2020 happened. My 2020 plan ended up being very different when COVID hit, and I had to rip that playbook up, and I had to create a whole brand new one for our business and brand. Yeah. And that's part of it, is being agile and being able to kind of remove yourself and get that 360 approach and go, what do we need to do different right now? What's not working? Because sometimes when you're in the weeds, in the middle of the forest, it's hard to see where you're trying to head. You've got to really get yourself over it. And, I fortunately was able to get that perspective. It took me shutting down that first business to gain that. Yeah. And then, like I said, having the courage to try again, to push through those doors of fear, which I know can stop so many people from moving forward in their life, to go, I'm going to be courageous again and give it another go.
Well, and entrepreneurship in itself is scary, right?
You're
putting yourself out there, you're putting your own resources on the line to try to, make something that tips the scales a bit. And sometimes it just takes the right person to believe in you. I love the story of early on in Kendra Scott, when you got a call from Oscar de la Renta and you didn't actually believe it was Oscar de la Renta.
No, I mean, we were tiny. Okay. We had I think there were 7 of us in the company, and the phone rang, and one of my team members said, there's somebody on the phone from Oscar de la Renta's office. And I laughed and I thought, it's one of my friends probably calling me. And they're like, it's a New York City area code. And I'm like, I have friends in New York. There's no way someone from Oscar de la Renta's office is calling Kendra Scott in Austin, Texas. And I picked up the phone. I'm like, who is it? Who's pranking me? And it really was his office. An intern that was working in his office that was from Texas was wearing a piece of my jewelry, and he noticed it and said, I love what you've got on. Who made that? And she's like, it's a Texas designer, Kendra Scott. And he goes, that's the look I want for this show. Call her and get her to come to New York. And I mean, I remember at that point, I had no investors. I was doing everything on a line of credit and credit card debt. I had not that much more room on my credit card to get get a flight to New York City, and I'm like, okay, I've got to make this work. I'm going to see Oscar de la Renta. And meeting him, I can't talk about what an experience that was. And he gave this very young designer an opportunity, and watching my pieces go down that, runway. I've never been to a runway show before in my life. And the first one I ever went to was Oscar de la Renta, seeing my jewelry walk down. And it was just a surreal moment, and one that I thought, if he believes in me, then maybe I do have something here. And, those days of doubt, those days where I felt like, there's a million jewelry designers out there. Why isn't anybody going to choose me or pick me? And I thought, he picked me. And if Mr. de la Renta sees something, I've got to see something in myself too. And I think that's so true. Like, sometimes we just need a little bit of recognition or a little bit of fuel in our tank, whether that's an order that I got from a boutique that would be like, okay, keep going, Kendra, there's something here. And each of those things just gave me that energy that I needed to keep moving forward.
Right. And when you think about it too, it's not just about the fact that he bet on you, but you said yes. You leaned in, you bet on yourself. Because oftentimes, an opportunity might present itself, and one might be nervous to lean into it or say, oh, I don't know, I'm not ready for that. How did you kind of push yourself to be like, I'm gonna do this? You had what, 72 hours?
We had 72 hours to create the collection, and he said, I don't know if any of it will make it. Like, I've got to see it to know. But you have 72 hours. He needed a lot of different pieces, and my team, we just stayed up around the clock. We were fueled with caffeine, and we just kept going and making these pieces by hand. I remember going to a store here in New York after that meeting and picking up tons of different materials here just so that I could bring them all back to Texas with me, and carrying them back on the plane and bringing them home. And we just stayed up making these pieces, waiting for the call. And we got the call from his office. They said, Kendra, you need to come back to New York for the show. Every single one of your pieces is going to be on the runway. And I just could not believe it. I could not believe it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's one of many moments of growth and checkpoints along the way for Kendra Scott, the business. You went from being featured in other department stores to having your own brick and mortar stores, and quite a few now. I know that that's such an important experience for the consumers and the clients and the customers of yours, but what is so special about the brick and mortar experience of a Kendra Scott store?
It's the same thing as when you watch a football game in TV or you go to the stadium. Right? The energy, the excitement, the connection you make with the fans around you, the connection you make with the players that are playing on the field. You can't get that when you're sitting in your living room. It's still exciting. It's still, wonderful. But when you're in the four walls of a brand that focuses on connection first, where you can feel the energy and walk into the world of, and really become connected to that brand in a really personal way. We hosted over 25,000 events as a company last year. So Kendra gives back events with local community, outreach programs that we do and local charities. We're doing birthday parties, celebrating, brides with their bridesmaids, getting their jewelry at the color bar. We have all of these amazing activities and moments happening in our stores. And I think you can't create that in just a digital experience. So retailers that are strictly going digital or closing brick and mortar may be losing the fact that they are losing that connection. Human touch is vital in this world. We are not robots. We are not AI. We are humans, and we really require that touch. And the only way we can do that is when we bring community together. And so hopefully we're not going to start just seeing football games on our phones, right? We've got to have that experience.
Right. And there's something so personal about jewelry and so tactile about, touching it and feeling it and thinking, okay, does this resonate with me, rather than just a photograph of it, and having that experience.
1,000%. In our stores, we have jewelry freely displays on tables because I want you to touch and feel it. I don't want you to wait and ask somebody to have to go and see it. I want you to pick it up and try it on and have fun and be part of that experience. Color bar, you can sit and actually pick the stone you want, and we'll set it for you right in front of you at Color Bar with all these different jewelry pieces that you can select from. So it's that interaction, it's that creating customization and personalization that you can only get in an in-store environment, which is so fun and exciting for us, and why we opened 26 stores this year.
Wow.
Crazy amount.
And still growing.
And still growing.
The arrow's still pointing up. The jewelry is gorgeous. And one of the things that I love about it as a sports girly myself is the fact that you've got these precious football necklaces. I'm not wearing mine today, but I have 2 at home. And I think that is just such a great, every time I wear it, friends of mine are like, oh, does she make it in this sport? Does she make it in that sport? But I know that you're a football girly at heart. How did that come about?
I am. So my son is, my littlest is 12 years old, and he is so into flag football. He is actually, right now, his team is in the playoffs. So mom is super excited over here. But, I'm always wearing to his games and to the Longhorn games. It's game day colors. It's about supporting your team. And I do that through my accessories. Yeah. And I was just looking at, we're the brand of color. We create the most beautiful colored gemstones and have these beautiful pieces. And every team is represented by their team colors. And so it started with game day colors, and then bringing in the football necklace. We have the helmet now. We have, the megaphone for cheerleaders. And we had so many requests for every sport. So, we're doing it all now, from baseball to soccer to you name it. We've got you covered.
That's amazing. And having that one initial design, how did you think, okay, this is going to have to be on the necklace?
Well, we love natural stones. So that football necklace is gold stone. Mm-hmm. And so I hadn't seen anything that was done with like beautiful natural stones before. And again, I had no idea what the reception would be. I knew that I would love it. I knew that the other moms watching football might like it. But we literally sold out within like a few days when we first launched the football necklace. And we thought, okay, and usually that's the case for people out there thinking about businesses. If you want something, 9 times out of 10, other people do too.
Right.
And so if there's a need out there, and there was a need, there was nothing like this for people to express themselves. That we now do, even where you can put your kids' numbers, or your husband or boyfriend, if you're one of the wives on the team, you can show their numbers on a necklace with the football necklace. So it's really fun what we're doing at Kendra Scott for game day.
That's great. And I know that you guys are big UT fans and also Giants fans. You've got a connection with the Giants organization, right? Arch Manning at Texas, Eli with the Giants.
I know. We love the Mannings so much. It's just been so incredible to have Arch at the University of Texas, and his parents, Cooper and Ellen, are good friends of mine. And it's just been such a wonderful thing to watch him continue to grow and excel there. And we're rooting for him all the way. So I'm so excited to have him on our team.
Texas is such an important place for you, not just as a university and as a football fan, but also KS Welly, a program that you've started there for young entrepreneurs. And this is really a unique experience in the United States. It's one of very few institutes that gives this entrepreneurship experience to young adults.
Yes.
How important is that to kind of impart what you've learned along the way to the younger generation?
It was so important to me because I believe so wholeheartedly that when you are given the tools, you're unstoppable. And learning the entrepreneurial mindset can help anybody, whether you're wanting to be an entrepreneur or not, even in just thinking about goal setting in your career. So giving that type of training and teaching the entrepreneurial mindset to every person that I could, no matter what their background. I wanted it open to all majors. I remember at one point somebody telling me, oh, you're an artist, you're a designer. You can't be, you can't run a business because you're a creative. Well, that's simply not true. You just need to have the tools, right? And a lot of times creatives, by the way, make the best entrepreneurs, but that bridges your right to left brain. So I wanted it open to all majors. So we've got students in the School of Education and Engineering and Fine Art. I actually put my student center in the Fine Arts building because I loved the juxtaposition of an entrepreneurship program in the Fine Arts building.
Yeah.
And it's so awesome because seeing all these folks come from diverse backgrounds, but seeing and that unlock when they learn that, oh my gosh, I can do these things, I can see these things, the confidence it brings them. It's just been an amazing thing to watch. I teach entrepreneurship, women in entrepreneurship at the University of Texas as well. Yeah. And it's just been awesome to see these women just feel empowered and ready to go and really influence the next generation.
It's such a unique skill to be able to do it, to execute it in the way that you have, and also be able to teach it as well. And I can imagine that would be a challenge at first of curating, okay, how do I bottle this up and package it in a way that's going to make sense to people? How was that process like of curating essentially the curriculum of it?
So this is one of the only classes that's off campus. It's actually in our headquarters in Austin, Texas. We are really close to the University of Texas, so it makes it pretty convenient for the students. But they get to come in and really learn about Kendra Scott, what makes our brand and business special, what has been some of the things that is our secret sauce to success. They get to really get a whole case study on our business and brand. And then the last 6 weeks, I challenge them to come up with their own business idea and place them in groups together with people with different backgrounds. So you'll get get all of those different, majors together around a table, and together they come up with an idea, and they have to really formulate that. How are they being disruptive? Are they filling white space in the market? What is their purpose in what they're doing? Is there a why behind their brand? All the things that they see and they've learned about Kendra Scott, they now get to implement, putting into their own idea. And then their final, which will be coming up very soon, is pitch style, Shark Tank style, to myself, and I bring in some other entrepreneurs in Austin, and they pitch their idea to us. So it's really fun to see them come full circle from really learning and understanding to then putting those tools really into action.
And have you ever had a student that's pitched one Shark Tank style that you're like, I mean, I know you've been on Shark Tank too, and we'll get to that,
yes.
But anyone from your KS Welly program that you're like, I need to invest in this business?
Well, I haven't personally invested, but we have brought founders and we have brought them investments. So we have, dozens and dozens of now women who have founded businesses and gotten funding because of their participation in the Kendra Scott Women's and Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute, which is so exciting.
Yeah, and in that vein, too, in giving back to some of these younger entrepreneurs, you did make an appearance on Shark Tank. And what was that experience like for you?
So this is my 4th season as a guest shark, and every time I get into the tank, it's still surreal. I remember watching it as a young entrepreneur and learning from the show. I mean, it's such a show that not only is inspiring and multi-generational, which I love. Like, you could have my son and me and my 86-year-old father in the same room, and everybody is loving watching the show. And I don't know how many shows on television still do that, but Shark Tank is one of them. But I remember watching it and learning so much, and then to now sit in the seat, with Mark Cuban and, Kevin O'Leary and Lori and all these amazing business people and be by their side shoulder to shoulder is super humbling, and it is surreal, and I love it so much. I love seeing entrepreneurs walk in because I can relate so much. I remember what it felt like starting a business with just $500 on a card table. I understand where they are in their business, and I feel like, I've walked over the last now almost 24 years in this business. I've had so many peaks and valleys, and if I can help some of these entrepreneurs avoid some of those valleys, it gets me really excited to be able to pay it forward.
I'd imagine too, with all you've accomplished, being on that set with all those sharks, there's so much wisdom. I'm sure there's so much that you're still learning too about that process.
Oh, we all learn from each other, and we learn from the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I mean, they bring in ideas into the tank sometimes, and I'm like, why didn't we think of that? This is amazing. So, we're always learning, and I think you'll see the best entrepreneurs and the people out there, they have an appetite for learning. We have an appetite, we're curious people. Yeah. Every day I wake up and I want to be better than I was yesterday. I never want to be complacent, and I love to learn. And so when I get on that set, we're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other and talking about things that are happening in the world and really getting insight from one another. And it's just a great place to be. Those days on set fly by.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And I think when a lot of the young entrepreneurs come in, they always have a story, right? A story,
Yes.
Not just a product, not just a business, but also a narrative around it. How important is it as an entrepreneur to not just have a great product, but also a great story?
Well, it's you have to have all of the things, right? It can't be one or the other. You have to have a product that is really solving a problem. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a passionate founder who has purpose, who is driven by more than, I just want to make a lot of money. Because if you're going to have that, you're never going to survive entrepreneurship, because the valleys are so dark sometimes. If you don't have a greater meaning and purpose around why you're doing this business, you're not going to make it through those dark days. Yeah. So it's really also about a passionate founder who you can tell that they're ready to weather all the storms that are going to be ahead, and they've got that grit, they have that resilience, they've got that drive, but they're also open to be okay, that we talked about, that 360 approach, to be able to be pivot, to be agile, that they can't be so set in their ways that it's this way or the highway. So you are looking for all of those things in that pitch as we're talking to them to see, is this a viable business that I could invest in? Yeah. And all those things have to check the boxes for me to go ahead and make an offer.
Yeah. So, I mean, philanthropy is something that is such an important element of your business as well.
It's, it's at the heart of everything we do. So my first company, The Hat Box, I started when my stepfather had brain cancer. And I met so many women and men undergoing chemotherapy, and I wanted to create comfortable headwear solutions for them. And I really felt like, my stepfather was a big part of this, he said, baby, you've got to use the gifts that you were given and do something good. You have a really short time on this earth, and I want you to make it count. And I want you to have that purpose and think about how you can make a positive impact. And that really stuck with me. And so when the hat box didn't work and I was starting in the jewelry, I thought, I want to be, at first I was like, can I create a nonprofit? But then I thought, if there's a way that I could use my love of design and create a business that really could give back in a meaningful way, that would be success for me. So in the early days, I could make a pair of earrings for a silent auction, or I could make it for, for an easy, nonprofit. But as the business grew, we were able to do more. When we opened stores, we started hosting Kendra Gives Back events, and that built, a whole nother program within what we were doing. Since 2010, we've given over $70 million to women and youth nonprofits. And as a company, that's what we're all so proud of. Yeah. That's what draws my Kendra Scott family members in, is they want to work for a business that has purpose. Our customers have a heart that beats for their community. And when they can choose what brands they want to be aligned with, they're going to choose a brand that's really looking out for their local community. So local community nonprofits are a big part of what we focus on as well. Not just national large nonprofits, but we really try to get in at the local level and see who's doing the greatest work in that community, and we really go all in.
Yeah. Is there a moment, I mean, obviously you guys have given back so much to so many communities, but is there a moment that sticks with you that you're like, wow, this is why I do this?
There's so many. I mean, we are in over 50 hospitals with our Kendra Cares program, and that's pediatric hospitals. We bring our color bar where you can customize jewelry, and we have, patients that are there, and they're fighting for their lives in a lot of cases, and they've got their moms by their bedside who are just absolutely in one of the most difficult times of their life. Can you imagine sitting there and seeing your little one, hurting? For us to come in and bring them a moment of normalcy, a little bit of joy, a distraction where they can get out of that and feel good and do something that makes them feel good. Every time I go into a Kendra Cares event, I leave and I'm like, okay, we got to keep going. And it really affects all of us. Our employees are the ones that donate their time to do these events every single month in these hospitals. And it affects them too. Our store employees are in store, and now they're not just selling jewelry in another retailer or whatever. They're able to share with their customers. I went and did the Kendra Cares event at our local pediatric hospital last week. And oh my gosh, this is what we're doing. And it all of a sudden becomes so real. And one of the reasons why we have employees stay with us for years and years and years is because they know that their work has purpose as well. But I have to tell you, those Kendra Cares events get me every single time.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. What goes into deciding, where to put the resources with the philanthropy? Because you guys do so much. How do you decipher?
Well, we really do have a philosophy that we always have something to give, and what matters to you matters to us. So we really try to have our philanthropy and event managers in every community really work with their local community to figure out where can we really be the most valuable. But we focus on women and youth, and that is really where we put the majority of our efforts. And then it's the areas of health, wellness, education, entrepreneurship, empowerment. And so when we can kind of focus on those areas, it really helps us to find where we can do things in a bigger way.
Yeah.
But at Kendra Scott, we really try to not turn anybody down.
Yeah. Now, you guys, jewelry is one of those things that I'm sure lights up a lot of faces with women and youth and all that. I find it so fascinating, though. Again, you started on the card table making these pieces yourself.
Yeah.
And now it is such a large scale. What is that process like of letting go of I'm making each of these pieces on my own to like trusting them to be made to how you see? Because I think any small business or entrepreneur that is trying to scale at some point is like, all right, how do I let go of that part?
So you stay true to your core values. At Kendra Scott, the three we talked about are family, fashion, philanthropy. So it's not just every person that comes and works for the brand. They have to align with our core values. Every partner that we work with has to align with our core values. So as we started building out our brand and working with other craftsmen and artisans, I really needed to make sure, are you aligned with who we are as a business and brand? Do you treat your employees and your teams the way we treat ours? And we really made sure that we partnered with partners that were like us, right? And that made such a big difference, and that cared so much about the things we care about. We are maniacal about customer experience. We are maniacal about creating the best products we possibly can every single day and surprising and delighting our customer. And so our partners have to have that same, kind of like passion that we have. And we've really been picky about who we work with. And I think that shows in our products because we do the details and all the things that we do in our products are so special. And that comes from really putting a really high standard on everyone we work with. But you've got to have it and put it through that lens, right? That filter of, do they align with us? as a partner? Do they align with us as a manufacturer? Do they align with us, when you're hiring somebody? And if they do, great. And if they don't, you got to keep looking.
Right. Is there something that you learned about the process of growing a business along the way that you're like, wow, if I'd have known that at the beginning, this would have been so much easier? I can't believe, something that you're like, I wish I could tell my younger self this.
I think, when I was first starting, it was like, I knew I needed people that were better at things that I was not good at, right? I knew to get a winning team that it's really important to know your strengths, but more important to know your weaknesses so that you can fill people in with your weaknesses, that's their strengths. But what I didn't realize is that I thought, the resume looks so good, but maybe they didn't have the heart. And they didn't share what we just talked about, those core values, right? But God, they had all this great experience and I feel like they could really help our business. But when you bring somebody in that is not aligned with that doesn't share your heart, it can be a cancer to your organization. And I had some of those. And I had to learn the hard way, right? Where from now on, it's like there's certain skills I can teach, but I cannot teach you to be a loving and kind and generous and thoughtful leader. You either have that inside of you or you don't. And so that was a hard lesson, but it was one that I'm happy happened pretty early on, because from then on, it was like hire on heart. And, we really have the most incredible team. I know I'm biased, but I think on the planet at Kendra Scott.
Well, it is great that you think that, because your opinion is the one that matters of the Kendra Scott team right there. When you look at what you've built, again, I think it's just, we've said this before, but a $500 card table, almost craft shop, to a $1 billion industry that has given back so much and made such an impact in the community in so many different ways. Was there a point or a moment where you said, we've got something special here? How did you know? Was there a tipping point that you saw, or is it all just hindsight?
I think as you build a business, and I think this is important for every entrepreneur, because you hear the $500 to $1 billion, and that sounds like, overnight success and butterflies and rainbows and so easy and wonderful. Honey, this is 24 years of a lot of times where throughout that I thought I might lose my business.
Right.
My line of credit getting called in 2008 during the Great Recession and having to, beg other bank to take on my line of credit and believe in me. There were so many things along the way that were so hard, right, building this. And I think that's so important for people to remember, because it's not like this is just like overnight, right? You're going to have moments in your life in your business where you're like, okay, it gives you a little bit, like we talked about, the fuel in the tank. One order led to another order. I remember when Nordstrom wrote their first order, and it was a test order for like 15 doors. But those 15 doors getting into Nordstrom, which is like, to me, like, are you kidding me? I'm getting into Nordstrom.
Yeah.
That gave me okay, maybe we have something. But it wasn't, maybe we have an over $1 billion brand.
Right.
It was like, okay, this is going to keep us going. Maybe we can, build this a little bit bigger than we thought we could build it. And so each of those things over the last 24 years have given me that confidence, from Oscar de la Renta to Nordstrom believing in me, to opening our first store and seeing lines around the block because people just loved the experience so much and they were just eating it up, where I thought, maybe this is going to be more than one store. We'll have 170 at the end of this year. That one store gave the confidence to open the second store. The second store gave me the confidence to open the third. And so I think with a lot of people, it's not just always A to B, start and then you're this. It's all those steps along the way, and then learning everything you can. Take your time. You don't want to go from 0 to 60. You really want to be able to learn those lessons, because if you go too fast, too quick, you're going to make so many mistakes. And there's going to be so many things that are going to fall to the wayside that you haven't perfected. So taking the time to build it thoughtfully and building a strong foundation, because that foundation will change. When we went from 25 employees to 2,500, I had to put a lot of different new systems in place and new technology and really think about how we could scale in that way. There's no way I could have done that if I hadn't prepared for it. So build the strong foundation. You will get there. Overnight successes are not real.
Right.
Well, they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke because I got Breakthrough Designer of the Year from the Accessory Circuit Council, and I was in the business for 16 years.
Right.
And I became my breakthrough. And I got up there and I got the award, and I was like, I broke through after 16 years, people.
Took a lot of pounding
That's
to finally break through. I always say it takes decades to build an overnight success, right?
Yes.
But it's also, too, I think a lot of young entrepreneurs might think, okay, when I get to the point where I have $1 billion business, I can exhale. It'll be fine. But I'm sure as you've learned along the way, whether it's, the hurdles of the recessions or different changes in the markets, there's never a moment where you can just say, oh, I've made it, let me put my feet up, right?
You can never be complacent in business today, no matter what it is you're doing. You have to wake up every single day and say, we are going to be better than yesterday. We are going to surprise and delight our customer every single day. How are we going to do that? No matter whether you're $1 million valuation, 10 million, 20 million, $1 billion, 5 billion, if you stop having that mindset, your business will fail.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much success you have. So you've got to wake up every day. You've got to have a team that is like, the customer is our boss. I do not run this business. My customer runs this business. I work for him and her. And I have got to make sure my boss is happy every single day so that they keep me around, right? And in order to do that, I got to be the first one up in the morning. I got to be the hardest working one out there. I've got to know what all of my competitors are doing every day, and I absolutely have to blow them out of the water. And that is the kind of mindset you have to be in this world today to be successful.
That is the mindset of it, yeah.
And that's, I mean, again, we're going to go back to football analogies. Yeah. These coaches are watching tape every day with their teams. They're learning what their other teams are doing. They're figuring out how to get in there and beat that team.
Yep.
It is absolutely the same way in business. Like, you have got to be on the ground in your business every day, working beside your team, rolling your sleeves up, getting dirty alongside of them, but then also paying attention to everything else that's happening around you so that you can look around corners and be ready for the next thing that's happening, and have your team prepped and prepared to get out there and do what they need to do to be successful.
Right, because whether it's in business or on the field, the landscape's always changing, right?
It's always changing.
Always changing. Kendra Scott, thank you so much for sharing the wisdom today.
Thank you so much.
Brought to you by Kendra Scott. She is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and founder of Kendra Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time.